Don't let mosquitoes ruin your day. Fight the bite by removing standing water on your property. Standing water of any kind is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Do your part and help reduce the mosquito population. Visit hcfl.gov/fightthebite.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Board of County Commissioners workshop for today. And if you want to go ahead with the first item.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Israel Monsanto.
We need to do a roll call to establish who's present.
Oh, my apologies.
Hagan? Bowles?
Here.
Cameron Cepeda?
Here.
Cohen?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
Myers? Woodhull?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Commissioners, we're happy to present some proposed land development code amendments today. These are amendments that are staff initiated with the overriding goal of making our processes more streamlined and efficient. Mr. Israel Monsanto will run through each of the 6 amendments, and these are in advance of a scheduled public hearing for April 10th for the first public hearing. So, Israel?
Good afternoon, Israel Monsanto Development Services. I have my screen shared. The first item, Commissioners, is item 250399, Land Development Code Text Amendment 250399, storage of recreational vehicles and private pleasure crafts. This amendment will permit the outdoor storage of recreational vehicles, private pleasure crafts, and utility trailers through a planned development rezoning. The amendment would differentiate the storage of recreational vehicles, private pleasure crafts, utilities, trailers from other items considered open storage when
You're
permitted.
using like a headset.
Apologies.
PD district.
If you are not using your mic, please mute your mic. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll continue with the presentation. Again, currently the outdoor storage of RVs, private pleasure craft is considered open storage, and it includes also building of materials, supplies, merchandise, equipment, truck trailers, and metal containers, as well as commercial vehicles. However, the storage of RVs and boats typically serves as neighborhood support use for residential development, as opposed to the storage of items listed in the definition of open storage. Due to the nature of the storage of commercial vehicles or equipment, open storage requires intensive and more restricted zoning districts, such as commercial intensive or manufacturing zoning, and also high intensity future land use designations from the comprehensive plans. Therefore, the storage of operable recreational vehicles, private pleasure crafts, and utility trailers would be permitted, a permitted use when approved as part of a plan development rezoning. And this concludes the first item.
Does anyone have any questions? I'm not seeing any. Do we want to move on to the next item?
Yes, next item. Land Development Code Amendment 250400, non-conforming lot subdivision recognition. This amendment will provide a subdivision procedure to bring into conformance lot splits that cannot be recognized under current county regulations because they include non-conforming lots. This amendment will allow lot splits that include non-conforming lots to be platted and brought into compliance with subdivision requirements from the Land Development Code. These new subdivisions will not exceed the density established in the current future land use designation and will be subject to all applicable zoning district standards. This amendment, this LDC provision will only apply to lots in existence as of February 1st of this year. And this concludes this presentation.
Does anyone have any questions on this item? I don't see any. We can move on to the next one, please.
Next item, Land Development Code 250401, rezoning applications with a related comprehensive plan amendment. This amendment will allow an applicant to elect having a rezoning application to be heard concurrently to a related comprehensive plan amendment, or SPA, for unincorporated Hillsborough County. An applicant will be able to elect to have a rezoning application that is contingent on a request to amend the future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County to be scheduled concurrently. Any application proceeding in accordance with the code that is contingent on a request to amend the future land use of Hillsborough County will be reviewed for compliance with the proposed concurrent future land use comprehensive plan amendment. That concludes this item.
Again, does anyone have any questions, comments? You guys are awfully quiet today. I would say we can move on to the next item. I don't see anything.
Next item, LDC 250402, maximum building height definition. This amendment will clarify how the maximum building height is measured to be consistent with the Florida Building Code. The Land Development Code currently defines height as the vertical distance measured from the lowest proposed finished grade of the structure vertically beneath the highest point of the structure, whereas the Florida Building Code defines height as the vertical distance from grade plane which is defined in the Florida Building Code, to the average height of the highest roof surface. Updating the height definition from our land development code to align it with the Florida Building Code will simplify and avoid conflicts during the review of building permits. And that concludes this presentation for this item.
I'm looking to see if I see anybody's hands up. Anybody have any questions? Okay, next item, please.
Thank you. Next item. LDC 250404, minor changes to plan developments revision. This amendment will update the administrative modifications to approve plan developments that the administrator is authorized to approve. The amendment would allow 2 modifications to be approved administratively. Changes to plan development site plans that include the configuration and adjustments of internal driveways and/or parking areas that do not affect setbacks, buffers, site access, or any other approved condition or standards. And the other change is the conversion of mobile home units to single-family conventional units. The administrator will be able to authorize or to approve these 2 modifications as long as they are in harmony with the originally approved plan development districts. And that concludes the presentation of this item.
I have a comment,
Commissioner?
so it's not completely silent on you.
Thank you.
I think that this is a great idea, whoever thought of this, first of all. This is going to have, in my opinion, extensive cost savings also for both sides, which I think is a good deal. I want to understand the conversion of mobile homes to single-family conventional units, that it's not changing the intensity or density. It's just 1-to-1 ratios.
Yes, sir, confirmed. It does not change the density, the numbers. We do have some instances where we've come across plan developments where they might be permitted. One recent example, 4 mobile homes. And this is a site that right now would like to replace those mobile homes with site-built homes, enhancing their resistance to storms, their aged-out mobile homes. Under the current code, that would require a PRS, a minor modification, a couple months process, several thousands of dollars of application fees. And there are things that we could see right now that a site built versus a mobile home, it would have the same impact, but to your question, same intensity. It does not allow an intensification of the number of units by any means. It's simply the structure type can go from a mobile home to a conventional home.
Very thoughtful item. Thank you very much.
Mr. Romer, I have a question sort of dovetailing on that. Do you allow them to be at the same time? And what I mean by that is, say they're transitioning, it's currently a mobile home and they're going to build on there. Can they stay in the mobile home while it's being constructed? Because that would change the density for a short time, right? Or do you have that happen?
Yeah, we currently have a provision in the code that allows for temporary mobile homes during construction. So that is currently in the code. In the case of the project that I referenced, they already have a plan in place to relocate the residents who are actually part of it's a church property, so they have a plan in place to do that. But in answer to your question, yes, there is the ability to have temporary mobile homes during construction currently in the code, and this will not change that ability.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other hands. We can move on to the next item.
Thank you. The last item today is Land Development Code 250486, non-commercial communication towers ancillary to public use facilities. This text amendment will allow non-commercial communication towers in public use facility sites. These towers will be permitted in public use sites if they are an integral part of a county public use facility, providing emergency or protective services, for example, police, fire, and emergency operations that is only serving the communication needs of the public use facility. The maximum height allowance for these towers would be 200 feet, subject to setback requirements already found in the Land Development Code, Section 61129E2 for wireless communication facilities. And that concludes this item.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments, questions on this item?
I definitely do. I just, Adam, I had no idea that these tower items could be so contentious, right? As the one that's right near my house, which is different than this. But we have many fire stations that are all near residential areas. And we've seen how sensitive people are to these types of towers going up. And as you know, I'm very supportive and vocal support of first responders and public safety. I want to make sure that this is not a big issue that's hiding as in just like, hey, we think this is a common sense item, but it's going to present terror for us during in the future at some point.
Yes, Commissioner, very good, excellent question. Just a little context for this amendment. We have our cell tower, which we call wireless communication support structure regulations right now are really geared towards commercial uses and towers that have multiple commercial providers requiring for co-location, and we have run into numerous instances where, for instance, say the sheriff's office is looking to put a tower or some critical piece of communication infrastructure, and they kind of we have to go through some hoops to fit that type of use into our cell tower regulations. We'll say that these sites, being public sites, would be subject to public facility siting meetings, and perhaps as a suggestion that we can incorporate that into this amendment so that these are not things that if this amendment were approved, that would just present themselves and communities would not know that they were potentially coming and have a chance to comment on them. So if that would enhance this amendment, or I think that could serve to address what will the community feel about this type of tower in this location, that we incorporate that they're required to have a public facility siting meeting, which is done as a matter of course for county facilities, but we could codify that as part of this proposed amendment.
Yeah, I was really just more of pointing it out to my colleagues of we saw how contentious the ones we don't have control over were, and I just didn't want us to be surprised or think we're just doing something to improve public safety and unwittingly creating some emotional reactions down the road that we didn't even consider. That's all.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So you're not, go right ahead, sir.
I'm sorry, I had my hand up.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it. My apologies.
Okay, that's okay, no problem. Commissioner Westphal, I just wanted to make the comment. One thing that concerns me is if we allow public comment for something that the public has no hope of influencing, we simply allow them to comment and it's a done deal anyway. I feel like that gets to be cause for even more frustration than not allowing comment at all. So I want to just make sure that if we're going to have any kind of public comment on these issues, it's got to be attached to us having some discretion to make a decision. If there's no discretion attached to it, I think it gives people false hope that they can affect something that they can't. Adam, can you comment on that?
Yes, I certainly I understand that comment. We can suggest as we will talk with our partners in facilities to come up with a sort of a process where these facilities do have the board has some control over over whether a facility with a tower gets sited in a particular location. And we will bring back some language for the first public hearing to address those comments that both you and Commissioner Wustel made about noticing the public and, to your point, having some control over the outcome. Certainly understand that, public ability to comment without the ability to change the outcome would certainly be frustrating for interested parties.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me that can compound the frustration. So I just want us to be cognizant of that as we move forward. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I scroll through, I don't see anyone else's hands up. Does anyone else have a comment or concern on anything? Oh, Commissioner Bowles.
Yes, I'd like to, I understand what the concern could be. I certainly wouldn't want a 200-foot tower behind my house. If at all possible, it was not there. Out of the 46 stations, I believe we have, and 2 more slated to be built. There's probably less than a handful that I can, off the top of my head, say that have a tower next to them that has to do with a public facility. So there's one in Brandon, there's one out in Lithia. There's 2, or I think there's 2 more. But typically, the fire stations that are built in and around neighborhoods would not need a tower like that because they're hardwired. There's the communications that are coming into, if we're talking about specifically fire stations, don't need that kind of communication. That may be different at their headquarters or something like that, or if there's some reason to have like a repeater somewhere. But I think it's probably more so for the sheriff and their needs. And again, Adam, you may be able to speak more what is actually precipitating this particular thing. But I don't necessarily think it's quote fire stations, even though it's listed in the examples.
Yes, Commissioner, we've had experiences with both fire stations and proposed sheriff's station, and so we've had some for fire stations that have actually gone through a special use permit process, but there's a pending one that we're aware of does have to do with a potential new sheriff's station.
Okay. But it could happen, but I just off the top of my head, I just can't think of but more than a handful. So I don't think it's going to be rampant running through the county. Every fire station is going to have a 200-foot tower next to it. God forbid that should ever happen. But it's certainly something to keep our eyes on and something to certainly involve the public in anytime we can. I'll yield.
Thank you. I scrolled through, I didn't see any other hands up. Does anyone else have any questions, comments on any of the items from the meeting today? Seeing none, I think I can adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great